Hi there. In the early days running up to World War II, there was a plethora of manuals and books on close combat and self-protection produced. These include the book by Leopold McLaglen, which was aimed at the Home Guard and had some brutally effective techniques. You had the little book by Captain Hartley Leather, again aimed at the military, and Slip Saxon did a small book for mainly civilian use. One of the noted manuals at the time was by James Hipkiss, and it was the Anti-Invasion Notes manual. And it's James Hipkiss I want to talk about in this review. I always highly regarded that book. For example, it had this poster which you could take out and put up in the training hall for the use of the students, and it was a guide to the techniques as taught. And I'm not really aware of any other book that did that. It was a good idea at the time. Anyway, a few weeks ago, Gary Harper, a very keen trainee in Combatives, who attended many of our seminars, including the internationals, got in touch, and he had been researching the kind of material for quite a while in some depth, and in particular the work and the life of James Hipkiss. And he had been aided in this by Tim Hipkiss, who's the grandson, and was actually one of Gary's teachers at school. And they found out that there had been an earlier manual produced in the 1930s, but there was no trace of it. The family didn't have a copy, and it was, to all intents and purposes, a lost manual. Now, I won't go into all the ways that Gary used to research this. He actually puts it down as part of the manual, but they located the one surviving copy, and it was in Leipzig University. Now, just as an aside, the Leipzig Institute was very, very noted sports science institute in measuring and increasing performance in all sorts of sports, but they had a particular department devoted to combat sports, and this was fully backed by the government of the WWII at the time, who wanted Olympic and European medals. And the research was very, very specific to the combat sports, the individual combat sports. There were special machines to measure your resistance as you applied judo holds and wrestling holds, and turning the body in different ways. Similar equipment in the striking sports. So there was a lot of information there. And so I wasn't too surprised to find out that Leipzig was the place that had amassed such literature. One wonders what other material they have that might be available that's not found anywhere else. Anyway, Tim was able to get a PDF copy from Leipzig, and him and Gary have decided to publish it. And Gary very kindly sent me a copy, and it's this book, Self-Defense Made Simple by James Hipkiss, 1 shilling. The governing principles of the Japanese art of jiu-jitsu, adapted and arranged in easy practical lessons for the businessman and woman. That actually does sum it up. That's the kind of manual it is. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about the contents because it's best you find out yourself. Order a copy and go into it and sample it firsthand. I always find that better. But I will mention a couple of the things in it, because James Hipkiss was a significant figure. In 1927, he had become British champion in a competition organised by the British Jiu-Jitsu Society, and he successfully defended that title. At the same year, he also won the wrestling championship. So he was a very noted grappler. And the book is self-defense based on judo or jiu-jitsu principles. And it strikes a chord with me, because when I first started reading judo books in the 60s, these principles were the foundation for those books. So it had stood the test of time. Things like the importance of balance, offensively and defensively. To do anything, you've got to be on balance, and if possible, destroy your opponent's balance. Because somebody who's off balance doesn't think of anything else except regaining the balance. How you do this, obviously, is the matter of training, but it's a principle. It's an interesting principle. Another thing that he mentions is not to have too big an armory of techniques, counters and so on. Restrict yourselves to a few well-trained, practiced and proven techniques. This is very wise information, wise advice, which kind of echoes what Peter Constantine calls the logjam effect many years later. He also recounts a story of two proficient boxers who came to blows in the street, and instead of the footwork and jabs and crosses and so on, it was trying to tear ears off and bite noses off. So he obviously was very well aware of the realities of the street as opposed to the gym or the ring. One thing I did notice is that there is an evolution from some of the techniques shown in the manual to what is in the anti-invasion book. You can see that some of the techniques have evolved. For example, there's a technique, it's on that poster, and it's a generic technique for any kind of frontal grab, single hand, double hand, round the throat, lapels, or whatever. It covers any of those situations. And I always like techniques that are very broad based. A single solution to a multitude of problems. It's called the cross swing and cut, and I still teach it to this day. It's something I took away from the anti-invasion book, and I regard it as a classic technique, and it works. Not for any other reason that it works. It's practical, and it's very sound principles. By the way, the book uses no Japanese terminology. It's all English. It makes it very, very accessible. The book is quite simple drawings. They're not little stick men. They're clear pen drawings. And considering the time when high resolution photographs and the printing thereof was not really up to a high level, these do the job. And in fact, in even decades later, a lot of the books on self-protection were still making use of line drawings. sometimes photos can be rather cluttered, and you can put the detail in the drawings. So Gary is selling the book, not to make loads of money, but just to have it out there as a lasting remembrance of a noted instructor. He emphasises it's a booklet rather than a full book. The price is £10. Is it worth it? To me, I would have paid £10 for it. That includes the postage, and it's such a rarity to pay for something like that, to have in my collection on my bookshelves. Yeah, without a doubt. So I'll put the link, put Gary's address where you can contact him. It is a significant addition to the literature. Gary and Tim have done a tremendous job in locating it and bringing it out into now the public domain. And just as a teaser, watch this space for further news. Enjoy.